Hey guys, welcome to Vibing with Queen Bee. So, tonight I want to tell a little bit about myself and kind of give you, my audience, my wonderful subscribers, a little insight into who I am, where I'm from, and how I was brought up. So, I want to start out with I was born in the island of Jamaica, in the country. Yes, I'm a country girl. And at the age of 7 years old, I migrated to the United States of America. My mom had the opportunity with some white people actually, that she took care of when they came to Jamaica on vacation. She kind of took them around and showed them Jamaica, and she was somewhat of like a little tour guide to them. And they fell madly in love with my mom. And back in those days, a person could actually, I'm not sure if it changed, but I know back in those days, a person could actually sponsor you on a work visa, and then they could actually file for you to get your permanent residence. So that is how she was able to come to America. The white people fell in love with her and they decided to bring her over on a work visa. And then they filed for her to become a permanent resident, which she did. My mom worked very hard for that particular family for a couple of years until she had the opportunity to file for us, her kids. Now, it's a total of 5 of us. I have 4 older brothers. I am the only girl and the baby. So yeah, your girl is very spoiled. She grew up very spoiled. Yes, I was a spoiled brat. um, but when I came to the United States, of course, it was a culture shock for me. Even at the age of 7, I felt lost, in a big city. So it was kind of weird, but my brothers and myself, we first lived in Manhattan, New York. And of course, because I was the only girl and the baby, I pretty much was a tomboy, right? Because I'm running behind my brothers. I'm doing everything they are doing. And, so I actually grew up somewhat of a tomboy, climbing ladders, jumping off buildings, just do a lot of crazy stuff. And of course, my mom was always worried about me because I'm the only girl and the baby. So she was very overprotective, always kept me in the house, didn't want me to go outside. A lot of times I'd be looking through the window and I see all the other kids out there. They're playing, they're running around, they're having a good time. And my mom would not let me go outside. So I used to just sit at the window and just look and just wish I could be out there. Now, I wouldn't say that I grew up like the most beautiful girl in the world. I mean, I am now, but back then I thought I was the ugliest thing in the world, right? So, plus a lot of the kids used to tease me, the boys used to tease me. Sometimes I'd be at the window and they're like yelling. I don't know if anybody know that song, like, "Who's that doggy at the window?" It's funny to me now, but back then it used to really hurt my feelings because they say, "Who's that doggy at the window?" And I used to be so hurt, And, you know how kids are. Kids could be very, very cruel. And growing up with 4 brothers was not easy also because, I used to be a little, what you call it, telltale on them. Like I used to run to my mom and snitch on them and tell them things that they're doing. So they used to be upset with me. So because of that, they actually joined in with the rest of the kids in teasing me. And, they called me every name in the book from A to Z. And my brothers thought it was funny. If I'm outside, a little chance I do get to go outside and I'm riding my bike, they used to always be yelling out like, "Who's that man on the bike?" Because I was a tomboy, I used to ride the bike like real hard and going around the corners. And I wasn't feminine with it. I was like real rough. So, my brothers, they used to always tease me, them and their friends. So, but I grew up and I grew past that, and I went to high school, of course, graduated, and just coming up in life, just being the only girl was always something that bothers me also, because I always wish I had a sister. And then I learned that I did have a sister on my father's side. So I have one sister on my father's side. God bless her when she came into my life. But, life progressed. My mom was now in the church. She started to go to church. She was really, really staunch in her church. Like, you could not get my mom out of church, period. So, of course, with her going to church, we all was in church along with her. So I kind of grew up in the church for most part. Then we ended up moving to Brooklyn, New York. And I lived there most of my life. My mom was still overprotective. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go party. I couldn't be a young person, with a regular young life, or just go to the movies or just hanging out with friends. I never had the opportunity to do that because she was so overprotective and she was so scared something was going to happen to me. But as time went on, I got to like about the age of 16. I was like 16, almost 17. And at that point, I just started to rebel. I just wanted a regular life like any young person. So I met some older friends. They were like several years older than me. Like I was only 16 and a half. They were like 25, 20 in their 20s, late 20s. And I started to hang out with them. And, to the point where I would be at their house and my mom would be looking for me. She can't find me. And I just didn't care. I just wanted to have fun. I went over there. I was, hanging with them and, starting to take a little sip of alcohol. You know how it is, right? So I just decided I'm just going to have fun. When I go home, I'll just take the beating and get it over with. So, of course, that used to happen. I got home and she'd be so upset with me, like, "Where have you been?" And, and she'll beat me and whatever. Okay, it is what it is. So I remember one night I went over to my friend's house again, because at this point I was just rebellious. I just didn't care. I just take the beating. I just wanted to enjoy life. So if that's the only way I'm going to get to enjoy a little bit of my young age, then hey, So I remember one night, it was a Saturday night, I went over to their house and, sorry. And then when I got there, they were like, "Hey, you going to come to the party with us tonight?" And I'm like, "Party? I've never been to a party in my life." And they were like, "Oh, it's going to be great. It's a friend of mine." And in Brooklyn, they normally used to have a lot of basement parties, like a lot of private basement parties. So she was like, "Oh, it's a basement party. Me and my sisters are going. It'd be nice and be great if you came." And of course, I'm all excited. And I'm like, it was just like, oh my God, my first party. Oh my God. It was just so exciting. Like, I'm like, I don't care. I'll take like 10 beatings for this one, right? So in order for me to go to the party, of course, I can't go home, to go say, "Hey, I'm getting dressed to go to a party." So what I did was just literally stayed at my friend's house, and my friend loaned me an outfit. And I remember the outfit. It was like an all-in-one leopard jumper suit. Yes, it was an all-in-one leopard jumper suit. And at the time, I had my hair in micro braids. So they parted it in the middle and they like plait the braids in two braids to look like an Indian. And then they use a little gold coil to wrap around, the end, just to pretty it up to match my leopard suit. And they put on makeup on me. Oh my God, I was looking so pretty. I was so excited. So they took me to the party that night, and of course my mother's going crazy because she don't know where I am. She's looking all over the place for me. Back then, of course, we at our age didn't have a cell phone, so cell phones was only like for doctors and lawyers and drug dealers at the time. So we didn't have cell phones, so she couldn't call me. But she was asking around, if anyone's seen me. Everybody said no, we haven't seen her. So I went to the party that night, and I walked in, and I just loved it. Like, I loved the music. I've always loved music. I always like to dance and listen to music and stuff like that. So, without my mom knowing, of course, because she was a Christian. Um, and as I sat down, I saw a guy on the dance floor, and he was dancing with a girl. And he kept looking over at me, and I kept on like holding my head down because, of course, he didn't seem to be my type. You know what I mean? Even though I never dated before, I know my type. I know what I envisioned in my head, and it sure wasn't him. But he kept looking at me, and he's dancing with the girl, and he's looking at me, and after a while, I saw that him and the girl left, and then he came back by himself. And when he came back by himself, he walked straight over to me, and he said, "Hey, can I have this dance?" And I looked at him, I've always been a very feisty girl too. So I looked at him and I was like, no. And he was like, okay. And then he walked off, and he was dancing by himself on the dance floor. So kind of just speed up the story a little bit. He came over at least about 3 to 4 other times and asked me for a dance. And I kept turning him down every time that he would come and ask me. So it was getting late. It was like about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. A lot of people starting to leave. It was only a few people left in the party at this point. And once again, he came over and asked me for a dance. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, I already took the time to come out. I'm gonna get beaten for this, so why not let it be, the beating be worth it? I said, what the heck? So I finally told him yes. And OMG, he was so happy that I told him yes. So I got on the dance floor, and of course, I guess I'm a natural dancer because I was able to be, like whining and, bubbling. We call it bubbling, but, bubbling to the music. And I was just right on time with the music. Me and him on the dance floor, me and him. And everybody's like watching us like, wow, like they make a nice little couple. And the whole time that we were dancing, he kept whispering in my ears and saying, "You're going to be my wife." And I'm looking at him like he crazy, like, your wife? I said, first of all, I do not even believe in love at first sight. That's number one. Number two, you're definitely not my type. So, yeah, I was always just raw like that. Like, I would just straight up just tell you as it is. And he just kept on nagging me and, can I get your number? I told him, no, you're not getting my number. And he kept on saying, watch, you'll see, you're going to be my wife. So anyway, the night was done and over with. My friends say they were ready to leave. And on the way out the door, just to go back a little bit, the party was actually his aunt's house. Well, I later found that out at the party, that it was his aunt that owned the house that was having the basement party. And they had like a little bar that was built in the basement, so they always keep parties down there. So as I was walking past the bar to go outside, his aunt said, "Hi, your glorious friend." That was my friend's name. They the one that knows them and invited me there. She was like, "Are you Gloria's friend?" So I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "What's your name?" And I told her my name, and she was like, "Well, can I get your number? Because I'm usually having a lot of parties here, and I could always call you and let you know." Of course, I'm talking about the house number. She was like, I could call and let you know whenever we're having a party, and you could come with Gloria and them again. So I said, okay, great. I said, but do me a favor, please. I said, your nephew's been asking me for my number all night, and I don't want to give him my number. So if I give you my number, could you not give it to him? She was like, oh no, I'll never give it to him. And if you don't want me to, I won't. I just want to have it. So, in case if I'm having other parties and stuff like that, I can let you know and everything like that. So anyway, fast forward, about 2 days later, the house phone rang. And of course I answered the phone. And all I heard was, hi, how you doing? And I'm like, who's this? And he was like, he said his name. And I said, how did you get my number? And he started to laugh. And I said, oh, your aunt gave you my number. I told her was not to give you my number. And he just laughed, right? He calls me every single day. And every single day, I hang up my phone on him and tell him to stop calling my phone, right? And then, because he didn't live that far, he lived like about in Brooklyn, in New York, they have what you call blocks. So he lived like, I would say maybe about 6 blocks away from me. And sometime he would ride his bicycle. Like, yeah, he would literally ride his bicycle and be at my window yelling up my name. And I look out the window and I'm like, what is he doing? And so anyway, long story short, honestly, I swear, long story short, this guy kept coming to my house, kept calling me, and he would not stop until at least I gave him a chance, right? And I remember the last time he finally did that, I literally opened up my door and I said, it seems as if I don't at least give you a chance to see where this could go, you're never going to leave me alone. And he said, nope, I never was. So I started to sneak him in the house. He'll come, because my mom used to work in the hospital. So, she worked late hours, late shift, all night shift, overnight shift, all kind of shifts. So I had plenty time to, have him in the house, and she doesn't know about it. And my brothers at this time, they were away at college. Some had moved out on their own. So pretty much I was there by myself. So I started to entertain him, not in a sexual way, because I wouldn't even kiss him at all, period. But he'll come and I'll cook dinner, we chit chat, we laugh, we talk. And, he always asks me, what do I want him to bring for me? So he used to always, bring ice cream or whatever it is that I ask him for, he'll bring it. And I remember the last time that he was over there, I literally, when he was getting ready to leave, he asked me, so again, you're not going to give me a hug? At least give me a hug. You're not going to give me a kiss? So I said, okay, I'll give you a hug, but no kiss. And he said, at least on my cheeks. So I actually missed a part of the story. When he kept coming and riding and coming to my house and I wouldn't let him in and this and that, whatever, I missed a whole part of the story. The most important part was it became a point when he didn't call anymore. He wasn't coming to my house anymore. It was like about a week and a half. He didn't come, he didn't call. And I found myself missing that. Like, all that time I kept like pushing him away. I found myself kind of missing that. Like, I wonder what happened. And he haven't called me. He haven't tried to come to my house or anything. So I finally picked up the phone after a week and a half and I called the number. And his aunt answered the phone. And I said, is he okay? I don't want to call his name. I'm not gonna, cause I'm gonna tell you the story, but I don't want to tell too much about the names in my family or anything, because we all know how social media is, right? Unfortunately, we can't just be free to speak. We have to be cautious of the information that we give out on social media because, everything that's going on. But, I asked for him and she told me that he's been sick, that he had the flu and he's been sick with the flu and stuff. And I said, oh, okay, that's why I haven't heard from him. I said, well, just give him my love and just tell him that I hope he gets better soon. So sure enough, the minute he got better, he was back at my house. So it's at that point when I decided to open up the door and gave him a chance, right? So fast forward from there, he asked for a kiss when he was leaving that day. And I finally gave him a kiss on his cheek and kissed him goodbye, good night. And he was just so excited, so happy and everything, which he later told me that he didn't wash that one little spot for days. He would not wash the spot. He was so excited. I couldn't believe it. But just for time and not to make this video too long, just say we eventually did get married. We eventually did get married, and we have 4 wonderful children together, and we remained married for over 10 years. Yeah. So just to let you guys know, sometimes you could meet your spouse in the most strangest places. Sometimes you may think that, the person is not your type. That's probably somebody you would never think to date. But sometimes God just have a different plan for your life. And, we didn't part ways because of anything that he did. It was more of, I kind of outgrew him. Because again, I was extremely young. I didn't experience a lot in life because I was always sheltered and kept from a lot of things. So I never really got to experience much as a young adult. So I kind of outgrew it and outgrew the marriage. And I just started to be unhappy because I realized that it was just too much for me, and it kind of got to me. And after a little bit over 10 years of marriage, I finally just opened up and spoke my truth, that I was not happy. I no longer wanted to be in the marriage. Of course, it really destroyed him and it really crushed him because as a man, he was a great husband, he was a great father, and he felt like he did everything he was supposed to do as a man. So what could have went wrong? And I kept trying to explain to him that it's nothing that he did and that it wasn't him. It was more me and me not being happy. And it was kind of hard for him to deal with. And it took many years for him to forgive me. So yes, I did. I took the kids and I moved to Maryland to stay with a friend of mine just so I could start life all over again. And it really did hurt him. And like I said, it took many, many years for him to finally forgive me for what I did. My whole family was upset with me. My brothers was very upset with me. But eventually everyone came to terms and understood where I was coming from. The fact that I was not happy. I was starting to be miserable. And I just figured I couldn't go on another 10 years feeling that way. So I made that move. Looking back now, if I was older and wiser, would I have done that? Maybe, maybe not. Even if I did make that type of move, I wouldn't have made such a drastic move. Because it also almost destroyed my kids too, being taken away from their father and not having a stable home anymore. So I would have more think of the kids if I was much older and wiser to think about the whole dynamics instead of just thinking about myself and being so selfish. And that's one thing sometimes we as parents have to remember, that once you have children and they're part of that equation, we have to kind of be careful how we, do things as far as, breakups or, arguments in the homes or fights in the homes. We have to think about the children and how devastating it could affect them, when doing those things. So, looking back, I would have definitely done it a little bit differently. So, but we're fine now. We're really good friends now. The kids are all grown up. They all got over, not having a father around at that time. And they have a great relationship now. So, but again, sometimes, like I said, you may meet people at the strangest place and they may not be your type, or you think that's not your type. But sometimes God has a whole different, plans for you. So just don't go by the looks. Don't go by, you feel that, oh, I'm not attracted to this person, kind of keep yourself open-minded, to give a relationship a chance to see where it may go. All right? But that's just part one of my life and a little bit about me. And eventually I will come with a part two because I have more to tell about myself as an adult and, once I got divorced, where my life went from there. All right? So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell. So next time I drop part two or any other Vibing with Queen Bee, you be the first to be notified. All right? Love you guys. Bye.